With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey. This is a bunch of stuff, deal.
What does that mean, a bunch of stuff?
Well, it means it's simply inaccurate.
It's Irish.
Exactly, it is. We Irish call it malarkey.
Thanks for the translation.
No, we Irish call it malarkey.
You know what this is? Yeah, and I reserve this word for those rare instances when it's truly deserved. This is malarkey.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
From the King Spring Studios here in Smyrna, Georgia, this is A Bunch of Malarkey. I'm your host, Charlie McMahon. Thank you so much for tuning in to this, our 30th episode, a little bit of a milestone here. Now, folks, 30 episodes may not seem like a lot to you, but did you know, out of the hundreds of thousands, one can even say millions of podcasts out there, because there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, 12% of all podcasts never get past their first episode. They do an episode, they think it's going to be fun, and then they maybe don't get listeners right away, and they stop. So 12% never get to a second episode, 6% never make it past 2 episodes, and 55% have 14 or fewer episodes. So we are in the upper percentile. Now, during those President's Council on Physical Fitness tests back in elementary and junior high and high school, I couldn't do a chin-up, so I was never in the upper percentile, but I am a champion talker, so I'm glad that A Bunch of Malarkey is in the upper percentile when it comes to enduring podcasts. So I owe it all to you, 30 episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. Now, we're coming off putting the clocks ahead, daylight savings time. What a pain in the ass, folks, isn't it? I mean, pick one. Put it back and keep it. Put it forward, keep it. But it messes with you. And it didn't mess with me as much as when I was younger. But when you're older, I mean, that hour, it just throws you off. All of a sudden you wake up. I got up at, I normally get up around 8 o'clock on Sundays. And I got up at, it was after 9. It was like 9:30. I just wasn't feeling it. So I hope you are recovering well from that hour. It takes about a week, I think, to cycle off it, maybe even 2. But this whole thing, everybody thinks it's because of farming, that this came about to be because of farmers. That's what we were taught in school, but the whole story behind that is bullshit. Benjamin Franklin proposed it in 1784, just for a longer day in the summer. There was no farming attached to it or anything. It was later proposed to the British Parliament in 1907. Didn't really go anywhere. It did not become standard practice here in the United States until 1966. That's when it became pretty much uniform. But it was originally instituted during World War I and World War II to take advantage of longer daylight hours and to save energy and help war production. So we're not in a world war. There's really no reason for this anymore. But whenever there's something that maybe seems a little weird, folks, what do you have to do? You got to follow the money. The gas company and retail lobby profit most, industries profit most from this, and they have lobbied Congress to keep, and the state legislatures and all, to keep daylight savings time alive, because when there is more light in the evening, when people come home from work, say you get home from work and it's dark already, you're more apt to stay home and not go anywhere. Whereas if it's light, you're more apt to go out and drive, which utilizes gasoline, and then you're going to go to stores and restaurants. So the retail and the oil industry have lobbied and spent billions of dollars to keep this going. And they actually said the oil industry, gas industry, has added $1 billion in annual sales due to daylight savings time. So, folks, whenever you think something's a little out of whack, what do they say? Follow the money. So that's why we still do this, because what else, folks? This is America. It's always about money. Now, speaking of money, I was out and about. I'm going to have some more Uber. I think that's going to be another segment every week, these crazy Uber delivery stories. I'm going to have a couple of those, but the weather has been wacky. We got real cold at the beginning of the week, and now it's warming up. But when you have those temperature fluctuations, it messes with all the gauges in your car, especially the tire pressure. When you go from hot to extremely cold in a day or vice versa, your air pressure light goes on. Then you have to say, did I hit a nail? You got to go out and look, and it's a pain in the ass. But it made me think this week of a story that I did when I worked for a technology company. I worked in the warehouse before I got promoted into the purchasing department. And you remember that story about that girl that I faked that I had a couple $100,000 in my checking account? She sat behind me in the purchasing department. Her name was Tina. Well, she was coming through the warehouse one day, and it was one of those days where it turned from hot to cold or something like that. She was complaining about her tire light. So I turned to her and said, with summer coming now, Tina, you have to get the winter air taken out of your tires and put the summer air in. She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, you can have a really bad blowout in your tires if you don't go. When the weather starts turning warm, you have to go to the gas station. They deflate the tires. They take out the cold winter air and put the hot summer air in. And then when it starts getting cold, vice versa. So she goes, I never heard of that. I go, well, you're lucky you haven't been in an accident. So she goes in and tells another woman in the sales department about this. So they come out to the warehouse at lunchtime and they go, Charlie, thank you so much for telling us this. We're going to go to the service station now and have the winter air taken out and the summer air put in, so we don't have any problems or anything with the tires. So all the guys in the warehouse were like holding in laughter. They drive off and go to lunch. And I guess they went to the service station and told the workmen that they wanted the winter air taken out of their tires and the summer air put in. And they probably all laughed at them. When they came back, they wanted to kill me. They said we were never so embarrassed. It's almost like the blink of fluid joke, folks. When you tell somebody to go by blink of fluid, you see that little joke on YouTube a lot where the dad tells the daughter to go into the auto parts store and ask for blink of fluid. So that's kind of what we did to this girl Tina and another woman in the office back then, and they got humiliated down at the service center. So it was a fun story. So you may want to try that with somebody now that it's going from cold to warm weather. Tell somebody that they have to go get the winter air taken out of their tires and see what happens to you when they get back. So I was out on the road a lot this week. I'll tell you, folks, as menial as some of these jobs are that I've had, and I've had high-paying corporate jobs and I've had some menial jobs. But, as bad as they are, you get some good stories and some fun shit to make fun of. So this week I was out and about with this Uber thing. If you get approved for Uber Eats, you can basically put the app where you just want to take deliveries or you just want to take passengers, or you can flip between the both of them. You can have both on. So you can have a delivery, then go pick up a person. Once I switch to delivery, folks, I stick with deliveries because I'll tell you, even though I carry like these insulated bags, the food stinks. Some of this food that they order, folks, it stinks up your car. Now, I couldn't picture picking up some of this shit and then having a passenger in the car right after it. They would think that I smell, that I don't shower. So I get summoned to Red Lobster. Now, first of all, folks, who the hell is ordering Red Lobster at the office, okay? I get a call to Red Lobster. So I go down there and I go into Red Lobster and I said, I'm with Uber Eats. I'm here to pick up an order for so-and-so. And they said, oh, it's not ready. They're still preparing it. So I have my insulated bag to keep the food hot. A few minutes go by and they come out with this shopping bag of food. Now, but it was one meal. It was like this giant shrimp scampi lunch. It was like a vat of mashed potatoes. I'm telling folks, these mashed potatoes could have fed an army. And these cheesy biscuits. I put it in the car. I couldn't even fit the shopping bag in the insulated bag. So I tried to tie the shopping bag to keep the odor under wraps. But let me tell you, my car smelled like the Andrea Gale, like I was on the, what was that crazy movie with The Perfect Storm with Clooney and Marky Mark. I'm telling you, or I was on the Orca. It stunk so bad in that car. Now, I wouldn't think of bringing a passenger into that car. So I go down the road, I guess about 2 miles, with this giant Red Lobster lunch. Now, who's bringing fish into the office? You ever have, folks, when I worked in the office, the two worst things people could heat up in a microwave were leftover fish from dinner last night, and they would burn the popcorn. The smoke alarms would go. It was the worst stink through the office. Now, what an inconsiderate asshole you are to order a giant fish lunch and sit at your desk and stink the whole office up. This woman was pacing the lobby, another large person like the Shake guy, pacing the lobby of this office building for that food. And I'm telling you, I made it from the restaurant to her in 3 minutes. So it wasn't like I was caught in traffic and she couldn't wait to sink her teeth into these cheesy biscuits and shrimp scampi and this vat of mashed potatoes. I'm telling you, who eats all this for lunch in an office building? What do I have? Pack a sandwich, lady. So I drive it for that. Now this big thing is people ordering McDonald's with Uber Eats. You go to McDonald's, first of all, they never have the food ready. You would think a fast food restaurant, I'd walk in, so you got to wait. They put these quality control seals on the bag, so I guess other Uber drivers were eating fries out of the bag, so now they seal the bags. Fine, I would want mine sealed too. But you drive a French fry and an Egg McMuffin 5 miles. Then I got summoned to the high school over here. Some girl at high school ordered a McChicken sandwich and fries and an apple juice. I had to drive to a high school. And then I pull up at the main entrance, and it says in the instructions, you get instructions of what you have to do. Pull up to the front door, and then text me. So the text is built in the app. So I text her, and I said, I'm at the main student pickup door. You're at the wrong door. I said, well, it says front door. Pull around the side. Like there's some 16-year-old snot-nose is ordering me what I need to do for her. So I pull it around, and she just, grabs the bag. These people that order McDonald's, they don't tip. But don't get me started on the tipping again. That was last week's. But I also drove a chicken salad sandwich 13 miles from here in Smyrna all the way down south past I-20, if you look at a map, into Douglasville. 13, 15 miles for a chicken. They don't have chicken salad sandwich in Douglas County. I have to drive 13 miles for a chicken salad sandwich. It's crazy, folks. But I joined these groups on Facebook where other Uber drivers all talk and stuff. They make my stories look sad. I had one guy who drove a Coke, went to McDonald's, and somebody ordered a Coke. Just a regular Coke with a straw, wanted a Coke. The guy had to drive 3.5, 4 miles out of his way to deliver a guy a Coke down the block from McDonald's. Another woman ordered 5 containers of milk, little pints of milk, and said that she needed it for her baby. You don't have milk in the house? You order an Uber? I had a call where I thought I was picking up a passenger. It wasn't a delivery. I get to the place, and it's like a radiator company that manufactures radiators for cars. And the guy goes, oh, I'm just going to give you this radiator. You need to deliver it to a car dealer. So I'm like a courier. People use Uber for everything. Another guy wrote that he got summoned to pick up a passenger. He thought he was picking up a passenger, and the guy was waiting with jumper cables. He summoned an Uber driver to jumpstart his car instead of calling roadside assist. So people think now that Uber is for everything. I'm waiting for someone to be bleeding on the side of the road and call we're an ambulance service now. It's crazy, folks, out there. So I figured I'd toss in a few of those Uber stories or Uber Eats stories to start off the show. So it really is a shit show out there, folks. People using Uber for everything. Nobody wants, and I'm a big advocate. I'm not wanting to leave the house, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite, but I'm not ordering a Coke. All the years I was home during the week, when I was managing the DJ business, owning the DJ business, where I was in and out during the week, but most of my work was on weekends. I was never sitting around in sweatpants, folks, ordering shakes and McDonald's and all this other shit. I bought food. I make my lunch. I don't know. These people have a lot of free time, and they think that these couriers, like Uber and stuff, are their personal assistant, that they're just going to run errands for them, and it's crazy what we've come to. So those are the quick Uber stories for the week. So remember, I mentioned it again last week. Remember that black Altima in my neighborhood that everybody was after, and they confronted the woman a few weeks ago? We talked about it with Corey on the Won't You Be My Neighbor episode. Well, listen to this story, folks. In a neighboring county, police in Henry County are looking for a woman who pulled a gun on a worker at a Wendy's drive-thru last weekend. According to the Henry County Police Department, a woman was in the drive-thru of the Wendy's on Jonesboro Road in McDonough around 11:15 p.m. last Saturday when she got upset about something. Surveillance video shows the woman pulling out a gun and pointing it at the cashier. The woman then drove away in a black Nissan Altima. The cashier said it looked like the woman was going to shoot me. The basic dispute was over that they were waiting. They swiped her debit card and they were waiting for approval. The machine was taken. Sometimes the machine takes long for some reason. So the woman pulled a gun. All of a sudden, there was a black gun pointing directly at me. If you recognize the woman in the video, there's a video posted about it. You're asked to give police a call. Now, could it be? You love the conspiracies in this neighborhood, right? Like the guy who thought the wind that knocked his bush over, somebody vandalized it. Do you think the black Altima at Wendy's is somehow the same black Altima that ran the stop sign here a few weeks ago, folks? I don't know. Tune in next week. We may have an update. So this is what we got to deal with, folks. So that will transition perfectly to our favorite segment.
Mutant of the Week.
We had a close race last week, folks. We had a couple of heavyweights going at it. We had the crab leg combatants, the two people that got into a fight over crab legs at a buffet because they took over 10 minutes to come out, versus the salsa sack soaker, the guy who dipped his testicles in some salsa and then delivered it to a customer because they only got an 89-cent tip. Well, you voted, and a good turnout with the voting this week, and it was close, but the salsa sack soaker is our mutant of the week with a 56 to 44% victory. So thank you all for tuning in and for voting last week. Salsa sack soaker is our champion. So that takes us to this week's nominees. We got a couple of good ones again. I don't think they're as heavyweight as last week, but they're still good. Our first mutant nominee comes out of Ocean Ridge, Florida. Where else, folks? Florida. No, we've actually been Florida free for a couple of weeks. So I got to say, Tennessee and Alabama's been getting it the last couple of weeks. Virginia. So it's been a couple of weeks since we had a Florida contestant. So here we go. Nominee number one, Ocean Ridge, Florida. A Florida man spent what was supposed to be his wedding night in jail after he got into a fight with a bystander who refused to leave his beach chair, according to police. Boynton Beach resident Jeffrey Alvord, 27 years old, was arrested Sunday about 5 p.m. just before his wedding ceremony was set to begin. Ocean Ridge Police Chief Hal Hutchins told ABC News. When police arrived to Oceanfront Park, they saw a large crowd from the wedding party standing around, Hutchins said. The altercation allegedly began after Alvord approached a 24-year-old man telling him that his beachfront wedding was just about to start in 15 minutes. Alvord apparently asked the man to move from his beach chair, which was in front of where the wedding party was supposed to stand, so he wouldn't appear in the wedding pictures, according to the police chief. Alvord then offered the guy $20 to get out of his chair, but the man counteroffered and demanded $50, Hutchins said. Two groomsmen then approached the pair in an effort to mitigate the altercation. Alvord told police the victim became belligerent, so he then punched him in the face, breaking his nose. Oceanfront Park is a public beach owned by the city of Boynton Beach, Hutchins said. Alvord was charged with aggravated battery causing harm or disability and criminal mischief between $200 and $1,000 and taken to the Palm Beach County Jail where he spent his wedding night. Online jail records show he was released on Monday on $3,000 bond. The wedding finally took place on Monday after he was released from jail, and the newlyweds departed for their honeymoon on Tuesday, Palm Beach Post reported. Alvord's criminal attorney, Stephen Cohn, did not immediately respond to ABC News' request for comment. Cohn told the Palm Beach Post that the situation did not play out as the victim described. So our first mutant of the week nominee is the Bridal Beach Beater, the guy who punched out a guy on his wedding day and spent his wedding night in the can. So the Bridal Beach Beater. Our second mutant nominee comes out of Phoenix, Arizona. An Arizona man was charged with felony trespassing after he allegedly broke into a woman's apartment and made tortillas. Police responded to a burglary call at a Phoenix apartment around 7:30 p.m. Back on March 1st. When the officer arrived at the location, he says he saw the suspect, later identified as 31-year-old Jerry Christopher Drain, standing on the front balcony of the apartment. Police said Drain had an odor of alcohol on his breath when he spoke, had bloodshot, watery eyes, slurred speech, and he was unable to stand straight without swaying. Alex Heron, 28, and her roommate told police they woke up to the smell of something burning. When they walked into the kitchen to investigate, he saw Drain standing there eating soup and attempting to cook tortillas on the top of the electric stove without a pan. He tried to cook like 3 of them because the first 2 burned, she said. I smelled burning, she explained, so we both went out and I was like, hey, what's going on? Trying to have a friendly confrontation and trying to be calm about everything. During all this happening, roommate and we first noticed he had some sort of pocket knife, but we were smart enough not to say anything about it, she added. The roommates didn't recognize Drain and asked him to leave and take whatever he was making with him. And he did. Heron said he left eating a can of soup and tortilla and stayed on their front balcony and ate it. It was a can of some sort of potato cheese and broccoli chowder, according to Heron. I don't like chowder, she said. The only plus side of this whole thing is that I got rid of the can of chowder, she added with a smile. So, folks, who's the mutant? No, the mutant is the tortilla torching trespasser, but the fact that she's happy that he got rid of a can of soup that she didn't like kind of makes her a mutant too. But no, our mutant number 2 nominee is the tortilla torching trespasser. Now, this week's main topic, folks. Now, we talked about, when it's coming off this mutant of the week winner where he dipped his balls, his testicles, if you want to be anatomically, sounding, medically sounding, in some salsa and got caught. Because people nowadays, folks, when they do something, they immediately go on to Facebook or social media and they post it. So, of course, there's snitches out there, and sometimes they deserve to be snitched on. I wouldn't want my salsa tainted with some ball sack from some guy dipping it in there. But that's why a lot of people get caught nowadays. They pose on Facebook with guns and stupid things, and sometimes that's good because it alerts police that maybe they're going to perform a mass shooting at a school or something. So sometimes it's good that they're stupid enough to do it. But these little things people are getting caught for, it's because a lot of the time they're posting what they're doing on social media. Now, folks, my question to you is, what have you done in your life? Now, it doesn't have to be something illegal, but especially if the statutes of limitations are up, folks. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want any of my listeners getting arrested. But what have you done where you either got caught red-handed doing, like the tortilla guy, or maybe you came real close to getting caught? Now, it doesn't have to be an illegal act. It could be maybe you cheated on somebody and you were out at the movies and your boyfriend or girlfriend was at the same movie and you got caught or close to getting caught. What have you done where you almost got your hand caught in the cookie jar? Or maybe you did get caught with your hand in the cookie jar. And that's what today's theme is all about. Now, it kind of ties into everything we've been speaking about the last few weeks. We talked about lying on President's Day weekend. We talked about these crazy things, the ball sack in the salsa and the guy getting caught. So I'm going to tell you some stories about me and one about my uncle and a couple other things where we're going to play a little game. I'm going to start telling the story and then I'm going to make you guys decide before I give you the answer whether I got caught or whether I got away with it, and then I'll give you the answer. So let's go back, folks, to, you remember that store I worked at where the woman put her ass in the hand blower, Marianne put her ass in the hand blower? Remember I told you guys that each day, really, we had different sales reps coming in, and Marianne happened to be a sales rep for the photo frames, and she borrowed the folding chair and stuck her ass in the hand blower. The rest is history. It's back on our second episode, Beware of the Butt Blower, if you haven't listened. But we would deal with different sales reps on a daily basis. I was the assistant manager of the store, and we had a store manager who was a great guy. And when he wasn't there, I would deal with the sales reps, but he mostly dealt with them because he did most of the purchasing. But when he wasn't there, I would fill in. And we saw hundreds of these sales reps a month. But there was this one sales rep that stood out. And she was with a company called Warner Lambert. They've been bought out by Pfizer and other companies. But they invented Listerine, Lubriderm lotion. So this sales rep would come in. And I was like 21 at the time. And this woman was like 25. All the guys would stop in their tracks when she would come in. She was a real knockout, So everybody would just stop. All the guys would try to flirt with her. And I would talk to her because of the orders and stuff, and we would get to talking and get to know each other a little bit. Now, I had a girlfriend for a couple of years, so I wasn't looking to date or, I just like to, talk to her and look at her, to be honest with you. And she was very flirty. It was part of her job because she wanted to sell more shit to us. So, half the time she'd leave and we'd buy like a truckload of Listerine because we'd be mesmerized and a shitload of Lubriderm. But anyway, we got to talking a lot. And anybody laughs at my jokes, I like, so that's why I like all you guys. But anyway, she would, we'd get into some good conversations in the store. And it turns out, her company, Warner Lambert, was based out of, I believe, Morristown, New Jersey. So she was a Jersey girl. She lived in Jersey. I lived in New York on Long Island, where the store was. And it turned out that we had a mutual interest in hockey. I loved the New York Islanders, and my friends and my girlfriend at the time would go to a lot of games. We would go pretty much every Saturday night that they were home, and we went to a lot of the playoff games back when they were good. She was a big New Jersey Devils fan, being from Jersey, so we got into the Devils were decent at the time, so we got into some back and forth about who was better, the Devils or the Islanders. So all the guys in the store would like joke with me, I bet you couldn't get her to go out with you to a hockey game or whatever. It was like these little guy challenges, these immature things. So I said, I bet you I could. So one time she came in, it was the heart of hockey season, and I said to her, you're a Devils fan. The Devils are coming here to the Nassau Coliseum to play the Islanders. Why don't we go to a game? So she's like, that would be great. I said, all right, I'll pick up the tickets. I'll let you know when the game is. And so I got the tickets. Of course, I had to be a big shot, folks. I went down to the box office and I got give me the best seat you have because I wanted to be a show off. I had no idea. I didn't look at a seating chart. I just told the girl at the booth, give me the best seat you have. So as it approached, this was a weeknight game. I don't know if it was a Tuesday night or a Thursday night. It was during the week. But as the game approached, I had to start coming up. I wasn't going to tell my girlfriend that I was going to a hockey game with another very attractive female. So I told her I was going with the guys from work, and she was kind of jealous. She was like, oh, I love going with the games with you guys, but it turns out that you deserve to go, and you go ahead. I'll be watching tonight. I'm like, all right, cool. All right. So it was kind of dishonest, but you're 21 years old, folks. I wasn't getting married or anything at the time. So game night comes. All the guys are joking with me at the store because this girl, Lori, who was the sales rep, was meeting me at the store, and we were going to go grab something to eat and then go. The Coliseum, Nassau Coliseum, was only about 10 or 15 minutes away. So we get in my car. We go out, get something to eat. We go to the game. All the guys said they would be watching tonight. So I was like, we're not going to be on TV. Come on. I don't even know where the seats are. So we get to the Nassau Coliseum. Now we had a couple of drinks in the they have like the outer ring of the arena before you go into the actual arena where all the concession stands and tables. So we dumped a couple of beers back and we're feeling tipsy and she's starting to get flirtatious. Both of us were, but nothing happened. We were just like, she was like holding on to me and stuff. And it was just innocent stuff. So we said, all right, the game's going to start in like 10 minutes. So we go in with the tickets. I have the 2 tickets. And when you enter the arena, the usher was there. So I said to the usher here, I don't know where we're sitting. We knew we were at the right gate. So the usher says, okay, follow me. So we're going down the stairs, down right towards the ice. So I'm like, okay, these are going to be great seats. Well, he sits us right behind the penalty box. So I give the usher a couple of bucks tip. I thank him. So I sit down, and now I'm in panic mode, folks. Now, I knew that whenever someone gets a penalty at a hockey game, they zoom in on the penalty box and show the player in the penalty box, and then they put the little stat up, Mike Bossy, 2 minutes for high sticking at the whatever mark that he got the penalty. And you could see the people. I watch enough hockey in my life. I know the camera angles. So now I'm shitting a brick. I'm like, my girlfriend is going to be watching this. Now, the funny part, too, I couldn't even lie and say I was with, because she knows my friends. But the funny part is I was on a little aisle where there's nobody to the left of me, and she was next to me, and then there was nobody in the seats next to us. So it was obvious that I was there with her. So I'm like, shit, I'm in a panic now. I'm in a sweat. And she could see that my demeanor changed. She's like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, everything's good. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, the Islanders and Devils aren't really fighting teams. What are the odds? Maybe there won't be any penalties tonight. How foolish I was. So the puck drops. First period. I'm telling you, folks, within a minute of the game, an all-out fucking brawl breaks out on the ice. I mean, penalties galore. They're announcing them. Now, I'm thinking, I'm always thinking that when they announce the penalties and the guy sits down, if I bend down and tie my shoe, my face and my body will be out of the field of the camera. So every time they announced a penalty, because they had a group of penalties and I tied my shoe and I was fiddling around, and once the action started on the ice and I knew they weren't filming the penalty box anymore, I would pop my head up. Then another penalty comes and I duck down and tie my shoe again. She goes, are you having problems with your shoes tonight? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, the damnedest thing. I'm like, I got new laces. They're a pain in the ass. So it was heading to the end of the first period, and there must have been a dozen penalties, and I'm shitting now. I'm like, hopefully I ducked down at the right time where I'm not on TV. So once the first period ended, I noticed that there were seats diagonally above us. And I said, do you want to move to those seats? And she says, why? I said, because, this way we're not obstructed through the penalty box and the glass. And I go, we could see right over the glass, and they're great. So she goes, yeah, let's move. So we moved, and I was relieved for the last 2 periods of the hockey game. So all I could think about is, like, did my girlfriend see me on the TV? So I was scheduled to work the next day from 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 10 o'clock. I was the closing manager. So I got up the next morning and, did my routine, got in my car, drove to work. I get to the store. I walk in. Now, the core group of guys that I always went to the games with, I walk in, the store manager and the guys are hysterical laughing. And I'm like, what's so funny? Like, Charlie, you got to see this. And I'm like, what? So we went upstairs. Above the store, there was like this loft where the district manager had a conference room, his office, and private bathrooms, which I love to use those private bathrooms. And in his office, he had like a TV with a built-in VCR, and there was one in the conference room. They walk me up the stairs with a VCR tape, VHS tape. So I'm like, oh, fuck, what do they got? They're all done. They can't breathe. They're laughing so hard. They're like, watch this. They fast forward past the national anthem to the beginning of the game where the penalties came. So you see the fight on the tape that I witnessed. And then normally, like I said, the penalty box camera was straight ahead across the ice that would zoom in. For some reason that night, those cameras must have been broken or not in use. So the camera angle for the penalty box came in on like a 45-degree angle. So if I would have stayed sitting up normally and not tied my shoe, I would have not been in the camera field for those shots of the penalty box, the penalty guy who got the penalty. But every time they announced a penalty, you would go from seeing nobody and then see me, my whole face, bent down tying the shoe, and then this girl, Laurie, bending over to see what I was doing. So every time there was a penalty for that first period, I was in the frame. And if I just would have stayed where I was, knowing where the camera usually is, I would have been fine. They're dying laughing. I'm shitting a brick. So I'm like, I haven't talked to my girlfriend yet. I don't know if she saw the game. She watches every Islander game. So all day goes by. It's about 3 o'clock. I'm like, I better call her. So I call her up, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? She's like, good. How was the game last night? You guys have fun? I'm like, yeah. Did you watch it? She goes, no. I ended up going shopping with my mom. I taped the game, but I didn't watch it yet. I might watch it tonight. Now, we didn't have plans to hang out that night. I'm like, oh, instead of watching the game, why don't I come over tonight? We'll watch a movie or something, and something like that. So she had like this little basement area where we would go down and watch movies and stuff. So I get there that night. No, it was the next night. I'm sorry. It wasn't that night because I worked that night. So I told her not to watch the game. We'll watch it together or we'll watch a movie because I didn't want her seeing the tape, obviously. It was the next night. So she says to me, you want me to wait to watch the game? I'm like, yeah, in case I was on TV or something. I was real, trying to be real shady about it. So she's like, all right. So I get there the next night, and we go down in the basement to watch the game. And I said, why don't we watch a movie instead? And she's like, no, we should watch the game. She's like insistent. I'm like, but it's 2 days old. We know what happened already. They're playing tomorrow night again. She's like, all right. I said, could you do me a favor? Could you run up and get me a drink? So while she's up there getting a drink, I fast forward to the part where my face is, where the fight breaks out, and I press play and record on the remote. I pulled a Nixon on the tape. I totally covered over that part of the tape. So she comes back down, and I ended up talking her into watching the movie anyway. So I don't think she ever watched that tape. She probably taped TV shows over it. But it was like the most stressful couple of days knowing that I was on that tape and that I had to get my hands on that tape and erase it. First, I thought she watched it live, so then I would have been screwed. But the fact that she had this on tape for her viewing pleasure at any time, so I had to figure out a way to erase it. So when she was up getting that drink and using the restroom, I made sure I deleted that. But now, if you would have fast-forwarded a little bit more, I'm sure you would have seen me again because there were several penalties, but I got the main part off where the fight broke out, and I'm figuring maybe she won't watch the once she sees there was like a break in the thing, maybe she'll think it taped over the entire tape. So I did not get caught that time, but it came awfully close. So these are the type of stories I'm talking about, folks. Have you ever done something like that where you did something shady, you know you shouldn't have been doing it, and you either got caught or almost got caught. So we want to hear about it on this week's show comments. We'll be posting a special post, and we want to hear about your shady shit that maybe you got caught or close to got caught doing. Now, another story is from my uncle. He lived in New York for a long period of time, and he did a lot of different jobs, but he was a over-the-road truck driver in his later years. He drove tractor-trailers across country and all around. So he moved down to Florida, and I don't know, I guess he was in his 50s. He was still driving the truck, and it was a rainy day. And he was a big guy, my uncle, a real big guy. And it was a rainy day, and you know how like the back of the truck has that metal, the lift gate? He slipped on that and hurt his back pretty badly. Now, I don't know if he went in front of a worker. He exaggerated the extent of his injury to get, I don't know if it was workman's comp or disability or a settlement from the trucking company. I think it might have been a settlement from the trucking company. I'm not sure. It was one of those three where he had to go in front of a judge. And he had to tell the judge how severe his injury was. So he told the judge, listen, you know, it's ruined my way of life. My wife has to tie my shoes for me. I can't bend over. We can't go to the store. I can't go with my wife to the store anymore. I'm pretty much in the recliner or in the bed. I don't really get out much. It's hard for me to get out. I don't go walking around like I used to. Really exaggerated the injury so he could get a bigger compensation for the accident. So the judge rules in his favor, and he gets the settlement or the monthly, I don't know what it was. But I know he got some substantial settlement of some sort. Now, he's passed away, folks, so I'm not ratting him out, and this was 30, 40 years ago. So he is at the mall. So now, obviously, he exaggerated his injury. He could really go to the mall. He could tie his shoes. He did have back problems after that, but not as bad as he made him out to be. So he goes to the mall one day in November before Thanksgiving, and he's walking with all these shopping bags and heavy shopping bags, and he's at the food court, and he sees like a camera crew there, and they're filming something, and he's got a big tray of Chinese food at the food court. He's walking with a big tray, a heaping portion of Chinese food with all this food on the tray, carrying shopping bags with the other hand, walking around like he's having the time of his life. Didn't think anything of it. Ate his Chinese food, went home. Christmas time came a few weeks later. Right after Thanksgiving, we have those Christmas commercials that, you know, come to the Sunrise Mall and, you know, enjoy your holiday shopping, back when everybody went to the mall. So this commercial comes on promoting the mall, the one he went to with the Chinese food. And as they're giving you all glimpses of all the stores in the mall, and they give you like a live shot that day of the mall, you see him clearly in the video walking by. I mean, clear as day, it was him, his face, walking by with the Chinese food on the tray, carrying all those bags, smiling, having a grand old time. This commercial ran for years, and he was paranoid. Every Christmas season, he would sweat for weeks, thinking that the judge that ruled in his favor in this disability or compensation or settlement case was going to see him on the commercial, carrying all those heavy bags, enjoying the Chinese food, walking around. So he sweated for, I guess, 15 years that commercial ran, 12 years, but he never got caught. But it sure made him sweat every year. So that's another instance where somebody almost got caught, similar to me. I almost got caught. Now, have you ever lied to get out of something, folks? Something big, even like a wedding, you just don't want to go. You're kind of casual friends with somebody at work. You don't want to go to their wedding, but you just don't want to say no and be a dick because you got to work with this person once they're back from their honeymoon. So I was working at that Caldor store that I talk about often, and it was a few months after I started working there. I was the area manager. I managed a bunch of departments, and we had this operations manager who was a nice guy. He's a little nerdy, a little annoying, and he was getting married. So within a few weeks of me working there, he befriended me. I guess I started working there, I'm trying to think of the month, September. He was getting married in like late October, early November, I think, right before Thanksgiving, I think it was. So he invited me to the wedding right off the bat. You're a nice guy. Why don't you come to my wedding? And I said, what weekend is it? And I said, oh, no, I'm going to be away that weekend. I'm leaving that Friday night, and I'm coming back Monday. He's like, oh, you're going away that weekend? That's a shame. And he would keep asking me almost every week. You sure you can't make it to my wedding? You sure you can't make it to my wedding? And I'm like, no, I would love to go. So even the day before, he was getting married on a Saturday. This was Friday. And he says, you sure, Charlie? It's not too late. You can come. We'll set a seat for you. I said, no, I'd love to. I'm leaving tonight for a little weekend away. Have a great wedding tomorrow. I'll see you when you come back from your honeymoon. So he looked disappointed that I couldn't go. I said, I'm leaving right after work. I'm catching a flight. I'm out of here. So the next morning, it was Saturday morning, late morning, 10, 11 o'clock. I decided to go to TJ Maxx for something for my apartment. I don't know what the hell I went for. So I'm walking around TJ Maxx, and I'm like in a corner, like in the housewares department. Now, the corner of the store, it's just, there's no exit. There was a fire exit and a swinging door to the back room where the employees, it says employees only. So I'm in that area, and I hear a guy's voice that sounds familiar walking in with two other guys near that department. I look up, and it's this guy, Russell, who's getting married that day. And I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck is he doing here in this town where I live on his wedding day at TJ Maxx? I don't know if he was coming in with his groomsmen to get wedding favors, or the bride sent him in for some last-minute decoration for the wedding venue. He didn't see me. I turned pale white, and I'm in a panic now. I'm like, I'm cornered. If they're coming right this way, there's no aisle for me to duck down. So if I go out the fire door, I'm going to create a bell. Everybody's going to look. He's going to see me running. So I see the employee swinging door. So I run into the employee back area where they hang all the clothes and unload the trucks. And there's a group of employees sitting back there and the manager. So I run back there and they start yelling at me, this is employees only, this is employees only. And I'm like, listen, folks, you got to do me a favor. I was supposed to be at this guy's wedding today. I lied. He's here with his groomsmen. Can I please stay back here for a couple minutes? Can I until he leaves? They were laughing. They were looking through the glass for me. All right, he's checking out now. He's gone. And then they actually let me seek haven in their back room so that this guy, I could get his stuff, leave, and I could get away scot-free. So I came within, if I didn't think quick, I would have been busted that I was supposed to leave on a plane the night before. I dissed this guy's wedding for 2 months, and then he comes walking into TJ Maxx in the same aisle that I'm in. So, again, got away with it, folks. Got away. But, it doesn't always end up good. There's a gentleman that listens to my podcast every week. His name is Will. So, Will, thank you very much. And he comments a lot on the show, and I appreciate it. And like he wrote last week, we don't always agree on everything, but he is a great friend. And some of my best teenage years were spent at his house. We would have these large sleepovers, a few of the guys, and we'd hang out all night, listen to music, roam the streets, get into all kinds of trouble, or try to avoid getting in trouble, I should say. And we were always doing some mischievous things, but we were good kids. We didn't do anything that really harmed anybody. And it was some of the best years of my teenage years. I would say I was about from like 15 to 17, 14 to 17. For 3 or 4 years, his house was like the hangout. And his parents were awesome. His sisters were awesome. We had such a great time hanging out over there. But we would try to do like some mischievous things. And in his backyard, he had like a pool. We would go in, and his back of his house bordered, actually the side of his house bordered a gas station. And it was one of those, gas stations with a mini mart in it and candy store and beer, and you can get everything in there. Now, he had this tree. I think it was growing in his backyard. We would round them up from somewhere. They were like these hard type pine cones. They weren't like, the pine cones you put out at Christmas time that are just, you can smash in your hand. These were like, it's hard to explain, but they were like, almost looked like avocados, but they were hard. And he would have a bunch of these, or crab apples, something along those lines in his backyard. And we would take them and we would lob them over the gas station, hopefully hitting people getting gas in their cars and splatting on their cars. We were kids, teenagers. So we used to get a big thrill out of this. We would throw a few over, launch them, and then hide. So if anybody came around, they wouldn't know where it was coming from. So one day, me and this guy, Will, were throwing these pine cones, and we had just spoken to another kid named Brian who said he was on his way over. We said, we're throwing pine cones, we're having a riot, you got to come over. So he only lived, a couple blocks down. So a few minutes pass, and I'm launching pine cones, and we're having a grand old time. And we hear a voice coming around the backyard and says, are you guys having fun? So I thought it was Brian. So I said, yeah, man, we're having a riot, man. You got to help. So I'm ready to launch another one, and someone grabs my wrist and stops me from throwing. I turn around, and it's some customer from the gas station. And he cursed us out and said, now, motherfuckers, you're going to come around and you're going to clean my car. And made us come around and wipe down his windshield and shit like that. So we talk about getting caught red-handed. I had a pine cone in my hand. I'm launching them. I tell the guy I'm having a great time. And I get caught in the act because I think it's my friend. But we did all kinds of stuff like that. And hopefully we'll have him on the show one day. If he ever comes to visit or I go up there to visit him, we'll bring the equipment up and we could do a great show together on some of the crazy shit that we did. But that's getting caught in the act, folks. So again, what have you done that's shady? Could it be when you were a teenager? Could be as an adult. It could be something at work. It doesn't have to be illegal necessarily, but if you're willing to share that, that's great. I'll hope the comments in there. What have you done or lied about or got yourself involved in where you got caught red-handed or almost got caught? We want to hear about it. So another thing that involved throwing. Now, I had a good arm growing up. I was in Little League. I played third base because I had pretty much of a cannon I had a very good arm. I could throw, I could throw very well. But I guess my lack of hitting in Little League overshadowed my cannon of an arm. But the coaches knew I had a good arm. When we used to play baseball, pick up games and stuff, my friends knew I had a good arm. My parents didn't really because my parents worked a lot. They didn't come to all my games. And again, my lack of hitting overshadowed everything. So we had, obviously a nice backyard growing up. And we had this shed in the back, and I've spoken about it before, and I'm going to speak a lot about it as the warm weather comes. But it was like a summer cottage back in the 30s and 40s that we converted into like a place where we kept our bicycles, lawnmowers, tools. It was a really big structure. It had a walk-up attic. It was a really cool little building out there. I wish it could have been like a little fort for us or something, but it was more of a storage place. So in there, my mother kept everything. And we even had jars, just plain jars that were of no use, just tons of jars, empty jars from God knows when. My mother had all this old Depression glass that she didn't give a shit about. So one day I figured, I'm going to see how far I can throw one of these jars. So I threw it. There was a house right directly behind our house. Then there was a house to the right of that, and then a third house down. So I wanted to see how far I could throw these jars. So I started taking them and launching them over the trees, and these were pretty tall, 30, 40-foot trees, launching these jars over the trees, and they were landing on a patio, house behind me and 3 houses down. So 3 houses away, I was, a 13, 14-year-old, reaching houses 3 houses away with jars, and I kept hearing them smashing on the patio, and I was getting the thrill. I'm like, holy shit, I got a good arm. I must have thrown 20 of these jars. All of a sudden, we hear somebody yelling from that house, and looking to see where the jars were coming from. So I'm like, oh shit! So the person comes around. They had an idea from where they were coming from our yard, knocking on the door. Now my parents weren't home. We were home alone in the summertime, so we didn't answer the door because we knew if they knew kids were home alone, we were going to get in trouble. So later that night, sure as hell, knock on the door again. It's this woman and man that lived at the house, and they said to my mom, we can't be sure, but we think, they explained all the glass broken on their patio and that the jars were coming from my yard. And my mom's like, there's no way. He's 12, 13 years old that he could reach your house by throwing jars. There's no way he could do it. And the people were in agreement. They're like, yeah, I guess you're right. They're little. There's no way he could do it. We're sorry, but we thought they came from here. So I almost got caught with the jar throwing, and it's good that my parents didn't have a lot of confidence in my throwing and baseball skills, or else they would have been convinced that they were just paying attention to the lack of hitting at the baseball field every week, or else I would have been busted for jar throwing. Now, as you could tell, I did a lot of dumb things when I was young, as of everybody, and even in my late teens, early 20s, my friends and I would do stupid stuff. Every Friday night, me and a group would go out. That same group I talked about with my girlfriend with the hockey games, we would go out. And on Friday nights, we would usually go out to a restaurant, if not a hockey game. Then we would go to bowl or do something like that, some sort of activity. So for one night, we just decided to pull over at a random house. It was my car, another friend's car, and another friend's car. That's how many of us. It was 3 cars. Just randomly pull over on the side of the road in front of a house and just start honking the horn to see if the people would come out and just annoy them. So every Friday night, we passed this area, and we stopped at this one house and annoyed them at almost the same time every week. That's how dumb we were. So these people, after a few weeks of blowing the horn in front of their house and annoying them, got smart to us, and they figured they're going to come by between 8:30 and 9 every Friday night. So after about 5 or 6 tortures of these people, we got in front of the house and blew the horn. All of a sudden, the top window of the house opens up, and a shotgun comes out the window. Now, I don't think they were really going to fire, but it was like a threat to us. So we were like, oh, shit, it's a gun. So we drove away, and we didn't go back for a week or two. But then we got the balls to go back again. So we pull up and stop blowing the horn. Now, this guy was ready for us. He wasn't just playing games anymore. This guy was in his car, without the car running, without the lights, waiting for us to pull up in front of his house. So we blow the horns. All of a sudden, we hear the car start up and the lights go on, and this guy starts chasing us. We went through like a 3-town chase. This guy was chasing us, and we ended up getting away. So we got away with that. Now, I look back at it, I'm like, why would we sit in front of someone's house and just randomly blow the horn just to piss them? I would point a gun out the window if somebody did that here. So we were just little pricks at times. We were mutants, folks, when we were younger. We thought we were funny, and we were mutants. So let's tell a story about me getting caught. Another one about me getting caught. I was working at that Herman Sporting Goods in the flagship store in the Roosevelt Field Mall. And there was this little snack bar called, believe it or not, I believe it was called Charlie's. And we would go there. It was owned by a very big, heavy-set couple. And they had a couple of workers for them. And they sold, like, breakfast sandwiches and lunch sandwiches. And I think they would close, like, right after lunch at, like, 2, 3 o'clock. And we would go there. Me and this woman, Kathy, who was the office administrator at the store, she liked my sense of humor. She always laughed. So we would go. We would take the store, all everybody's orders, and then go down to this Charlie's and place the orders for everybody. And they were always so slow, so slow. We would wait like a half hour sometimes, even when we phoned it in, waiting for the food. So we would get frustrated. So I started with the prank calls. This was before Star 69 and caller ID. I would call them up and say, "You fat bastard, why don't you work faster?" And do I would say all kinds of shit to them. Now, I think they recognized my voice because I was there so often. I was that stupid. So after I started calling them, they started acting weird. They were probably dipping their balls in my scrambled eggs, like that salsa guy, and I didn't know it. I was too stupid. But I would call them all the time, and I knew that they recognized my voice, and Amy Kathy said, "I think they know it's us. We better not call anymore." So Kathy says to me, "Why don't we fax them?" This is when fax machines were first out, folks. So we didn't really know how a fax machine, worked. I knew that you sent something and they got it on the other end. That's all I knew. So I was making these signs, "You fat bastards," this and that, and faxing it to them. Now, I didn't know that on the bottom of a fax, this was when faxes first came out, that it tells you where the fax came from. And it said on the bottom, Herman Sporting Goods. So we were stupid enough to still go there. I went there the next day, and the woman looks at me. She goes, "So what do you want today, you fat bastard? A Belgian waffle?" So my face turned like 10 shades of red. This woman, Kathy, was dying laughing. We couldn't go there anymore. We were like pretty much too embarrassed, too humiliated. We got caught because we didn't know that the name Herman's was on the bottom of the fax. That's how fucking stupid we were. So that ended my, there was no other place to get breakfast in the area. So that ended my breakfast at work. So those are some stories about me getting away with stuff, getting caught. There's one other good one where, as you know, we were home in the summertime. My parents would both work. When my sister got old enough to watch us, I think she was 13. I was 11. My brother was 9. Now, my mother would probably go to jail now for leaving a 13, 11, and a 9-year-old home for 5 hours a day during the summer. But we weren't allowed out of the house. She didn't want us getting hit by a car, God forbid, or getting hurt. So just for those 4 or 5 hours, we'd have to stay in the house. Now, we had plenty to do. We had MTV. We had, you name it, we had it. We had toys. We had everything. We were allowed in the backyard, things like that. So it's not like we longed for anything. But, your kids, you get bored doing the same thing. Even today's kids, you have all these gizmos and gadgets, and kids get bored with stuff. So we decided, we were flipping through the TV channels one day, and there was this station called Swap and Shop. It was a TV station kind of like Craigslist, where this was before the internet, where people would post they had things for sale, and it was like a code number where you would call in the main switchboard for Stop and Shop and say, "I'm interested in code number 9875, the grill for $100. And in the background of that Swap and Shop was music. And it was a college radio station, one county over. I don't even remember what college it was. But they were playing all the hip music at the time, all that 80s music. Cyndi Lauper and the Thompson Twins and Billy Idol and all the good music that we were watching on MTV. So we decided they would say, our number here at the studio is such and such and such and such. Call up if you want to hear something. So we started calling. Now, this is when, if you even called out of a county, folks, your phone bill would go up because it was an out-of-county call. So we started calling this radio station, the three of us, every 2 minutes, dedicating songs to the dog. They didn't know it was a dog. I'd say, I want to dedicate a song to this, to whatever. We were calling this radio station 50 times a day. Just keep calling. We were disguising our voices. They were playing all our requests. We pretty much ran this radio station. It was all fun and games till about 3 weeks later when the phone bill came. And my mother got the phone bill. It was just, a normal phone bill was like $20. This was like $100. And my mother's like, something is not right here. All these calls to the neighboring county. We don't know anybody in that county. We don't have family there. We don't call. Something's wrong. She said, looked at us, said, have you kids been calling Nassau County? And we're like, no, we don't know what you're talking about. She calls the phone company and says, listen, the lines must be crossed or something. We must be getting somebody else's call, billed for somebody else's call. Something's wrong. The phone company said, well, we'll do a test on the line. We'll send the guy out and we'll see. So another week or two goes by. Guy comes out, does the test, says, no, there's nothing wrong with the line. If you'd like, we can send you an itemized bill. So my mother says, yeah, I want to see where all these calls are going to and why my bill was 5 times the amount. So she gets the itemized bill. Now we're shitting pickles here because we know that radio station is going to come up, hundreds of times. So my mother keeps seeing the same number. So she dials the number and they answer W whatever, college radio. My mother's like, who is this? And they're like, this is a college radio station out of whatever city and county. And my mother's like, all right, thank you very much. So she looks at us and she's like, you don't know this college radio station, do you? And we're like, no. My mother had no idea that it was on this channel on Swap and Shop or whatever. So maybe another week goes by. I don't know how my mother got wind that this college radio station was on Swap and Shop, but my brother was homesick. My sister and I went to school. He was homesick that day. I don't know if he had a cold or whatever. And my brother was the youngest, so he was the most vulnerable. So she somehow put that station on. So I guess he got nervous and said, holy shit, she knows about the station. And he just confessed to the whole thing and said it was us. We did it. He was honest. Nowadays you'd say, all right, it's an honest thing to do. He didn't want any more drama. He just said, all right, we're coming clean. Man, when we got home, we got our ass kicked. So I think she would have found out anyway if he didn't confess. But we took a walloping over that. So we got caught doing that too. So again, folks, what have you done in your life? Have you cheated? Maybe you were just dating someone casually and you made an excuse that you couldn't go out that night and you were caught out with your friends or another guy or another girl. Maybe you did something at work. Maybe you ate someone's lunch. Remember that story out of the refrigerator at work and got caught? Maybe you did something just a little shady and got caught with your hand in the cookie jar. Or maybe, like me on a few occasions, you got cornered and got out of it at the last minute, like with the hockey game, or my friend from work was supposed to be at his wedding and I lied and escaped through the back door. Tell us some of your stories on how you got caught or just missed getting caught with some of the things that you've done in your life. So, folks, what's St. Patrick's Day is next Sunday. What is St. Patrick's Day without shenanigans? Well, you already have the malarkey, but what is it without some shenanigans? And just so you know, my book, A Whole Lot of Shenanigans, is still available on eBay and Amazon. Just go to eBay, go to Amazon, type in A Whole Lot of Shenanigans, and make a great little gag gift for St. Patrick's Day. A whole lot of shenanigans about my escapades down at the county courthouse parking lot that I wrote last year. So if you like the podcast, check out the book. Folks, I want to thank you. Last week we had 5,200 listeners download. So thank you so much. We're growing each week. We're up another 400. By the time you hear this, we will be at 40,000 all-time downloads. So thank you so much. Can't do it without you. And as I told you at the beginning, not a lot of podcasts last. This one has, thanks to you. So when you get sick of me and don't want to listen anymore, that's when I'll pack it in. But as long as you keep listening, I'll keep putting out shows. So if you like the show, folks, subscribe on whatever platform you listen to. Give us a review on iTunes or on our Facebook page. If you're new to the show and don't know where we are located, let me run it down real quick for you. You can find us on iTunes, on Apple Podcast, on Google Play, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Radio Public, CastBox, and YouTube. Or if you have an Echo device at home, just say, Alexa, play the podcast A Bunch of Malarkey, and she will connect you with our latest episodes. So, folks, doing shady things always comes with a risk. You may get away with it. You may get your hand caught in that cookie jar. But either way, as I always say, beware. It's a shit show out there. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been A Bunch of Malarkey. Take care, everyone. Have a great week.